Once upon a time, in a land filled with green fields and winding rivers, there lived a miller and his daughter. The miller was a simple man, but he loved to boast about his daughter. One day he found himself before the king and, trying to sound important, he declared, "Your Majesty, my daughter is so clever she can spin straw into gold." The king, whose love for gold was greater than anything else, was intrigued. His eyes lit up and he commanded, "Bring her to my castle tomorrow. I will put her to the test." The next day, the miller's daughter was led to the castle. The king took her to a room filled from floor to ceiling with straw. He gave her a spinning wheel and a reel and said, "Now get to work. If you have not spun all this straw into gold by morning, you will pay a heavy price." Then you locked the door, leaving the poor girl all alone. She sat down and began to weep, for she had no idea how to spin straw into gold. It was an impossible task. As tears streamed down her face, the door creaked open, and in stepped a strange little man. He was no taller than a stool, with a long, pointy beard and twinkling eyes. "Good evening, miller's daughter," he chirped. "Why are you crying so?" "Oh," she sobbed, "the king has ordered me to spin this straw into gold, and I don't know how." The little man stroked his beard. "What will you give me," he asked, "if I spin it for you?" "My necklace," she replied quickly, taking the delicate chain from her neck. The little man took the necklace, sat down at the spinning wheel, and whir, whir, whir 3 times round. The reel was full of golden thread. He worked all through the night, and by the time the sun began to rise, all the straw was gone, and the room was filled with spools of shimmering gold. When the king arrived at dawn, his eyes widened in amazement. He was delighted, but his greed was not satisfied. He led the miller's daughter to an even larger room, also filled with straw, and gave her the same command. Once again, the girl was left alone and in despair. And once again, the little man appeared. "What will you give me this time," he asked, "if I spin the straw into gold?" "The ring from my finger," she offered, holding out her hand. The little man took the ring, and again he sat at the spinning wheel. Whir, 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 the wheel spun, and by morning the room was filled with even more gold. The king was overjoyed, but his heart grew even greedier. He led the girl to a third vast room, piled high with straw. "Spin this for me tonight," he declared, "and if you succeed, you shall become my queen." He thought to himself, "She may be a miller's daughter, but I will not find a richer wife in all the world." As soon as she was alone, the little man appeared for the 3rd time. "What will you give me now," he asked, "to spin this straw into gold?" The girl looked down sadly. "I have nothing left to give," she whispered. The little man tilted his head. "Then promise me this," he said. "When you are queen, you will give me your firstborn child." The miller's daughter thought, "Who knows what the future holds?" She was desperate and saw no other way out, so she promised the little man what he asked. He immediately set to work, and by morning the entire room glittered with gold. The king kept his word. He married the miller's daughter, and she became the queen. They were happy, and a year later, a beautiful baby was born. The new queen was so overjoyed with her child that she had completely forgotten about the little man and her terrible promise. But one day, as she was playing with her baby, the little man suddenly appeared in her room. "Now," he said, his eyes gleaming, "give me what you promised." The queen was horrified. She offered him all the riches of the kingdom if he would only let her keep her child. "No," he said sternly. "A living being is dearer to me than all the treasures in the world." The queen began to cry so sorrowfully that the little man felt a tiny bit of pity. "All right," he said. "I will give you a chance. You have 3 days." If you can guess my name within those 3 days, you may keep your child." The queen lay awake all night, thinking of every name she had ever heard. The next day, she sent a messenger across the land to collect every name he could find. When the little man returned that evening, she started her guesses. "Is your name Casper? Melchior? Balthazar?" She went through a long list, but with each name, the little man shook his head and said, "That is not my name." On the second day, she asked her neighbors for any unusual names they knew. When the little man came back, she tried again. "Perhaps your name is Ribcage, or Spindleshanks, or Mutton Chops?" But he just smiled and replied, "That is not my name." The queen was beginning to lose all hope. On the morning of the third day, her faithful messenger returned from his journey. "I have not found any new names," he said, looking worried. "But as I was traveling deep in the woods, I came to a high mountain. There, where the fox and the hare say goodnight, I saw a ridiculous little house. And in front of the house, a fire was burning, and around the fire danced a comical little man. He was hopping on one foot and singing a song." "Oh, what did he sing?" the queen asked eagerly. The messenger cleared his throat and recited, "Today I bake, tomorrow I brew, the next I'll have the young queen's child. Ha! Glad am I that no one knew that Rumpelstiltskin I am styled." You can imagine the queen's joy when she heard the name. She could hardly wait for the little man to arrive. That evening he came in, looking very smug. "Now, Queen," he said, "what is my name?" She pretended to think. "Is your name Conrad?" "No." "Is it Heinz?" "No." She paused, a small smile playing on her lips. "Then perhaps your name is Rumpelstiltskin?" "The witch told you! The witch told you!" the little man shrieked. He was so furious that he stomped his right foot deep into the ground. Then he grabbed his left foot with both hands, and in his rage, he pulled so hard that he tore himself in two. And that was the end of the strange little man named Rumpelstiltskin. The queen never had to worry about him again. She lived happily with the king and her precious child, ruling the kingdom with kindness and wisdom for many, many years. Thank you so much for joining us for this magical tale. If you enjoyed our story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more enchanting adventures. We can't wait to see you again next time. Bye for now.